Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to part 2 of tonight's edition of Friday Night Live on Friday, the 11th of April, 2025. I'm your host, Abdullah, and we're beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, Peterborough, and the Midlands through our partner stations across the nation. Welcome to all of you tuning in right now. And of course, we had a very strong conversation about the Filton 18 in part 1. Zafar Saab, you know what, I couldn't help but notice that the emotion on those family members' voices, right? I mean, and the pain they're going through right now.
Absolutely, and quite justified, to be honest.
Yeah,
losing people and not hearing from them for ages, etc., is concerning to anyone.
Yeah, it's strong. Anti-terror legislation against protesters seems very strong. I get it's a weapons factory, albeit an Israeli one, but anti-terror seems a bit strong for this one. We're going to watch that closely on Friday Night Live. So watch this space as we continue to cover this topic and others. But right now, we're going into a much more positive topic, dare I say, that affects, I would say, all of the United Kingdom, and certainly the residents of Luton and surrounding areas and the residents of Bedfordshire, because tonight we're exploring two major developments poised to transform our region: the approved expansion of London Luton Airport and the proposed Universal Studios theme park in Bedford. Now, these projects promise significant economic growth and job creation, but they also raise important questions about environmental impact, infrastructure, and community well-being. Well, joining us to delve into these topics and more, I'm delighted to welcome to this program Nick Platt. We're going to add him right now to our stream. Nick, who's the managing director of Luton Rising, the company overseeing the airport's expansion. Also delighted to welcome Hazel Simmons, no stranger to Friday Night Live. She's a leader of Luton Borough Council. There she is in frame. Hello, Hazel. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Thank you. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. And also we'll be joined by some residents from Bedford to see if they're excited about the plans or if they're a bit worried about seeing a roller coaster when they look outside their bedroom window. We'll see how that goes in a bit as well. But let me start with our wonderful guests on the line. Thank you for your time this evening. Let me start with you, Nick, if I may, because, of course, everyone in Luton, I'm sure, is very excited about the government-approved plans to expand London Luton Airport. And from what I understand, Nick, is it's increasing its capacity from 18 million to 32 million passengers annually. And my question to you is, can you outline the key components of this expansion for anyone not familiar, and roughly the timeline as well for the people of Luton and surrounding areas?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. So essentially the plan is to use the existing runway. And
no new runway.
Say again?
No new runway then. We're going to stay on that one runway. Okay.
No, single runway operations. But the design of it is of its day, and it's a bit tired, and it needs to be more efficient. So we need to add in some new taxiways to allow us to operate the runway more efficiently, get more aircraft on and off. That's essentially what we're doing, is adding a taxiway system that allows us to use the runway more efficiently, the existing runway more efficiently. But in doing that, you also need some parking stands for the aircraft when they get here, and you need some additional passenger handling facilities for the extra passengers. So at the moment, you go through Terminal 1, and that's designed for the people that we have today. So the current capacity is 19 million passengers, and it's designed for that and perhaps a little bit more. So what we need to do is increase the passenger handling capacity. And then in order to do that, we obviously need some additional infrastructure and support buildings in the landside space. So effectively, we're building a second terminal, some additional aircraft parking stands, some extra taxiways, and then on the land side, we're improving surface access, providing some additional parking and access in and out of the airport. That will take place over the next 20 years. So if for anyone who's read the DCO application, you'll see that we talk about a 20-year time frame. So between now and 2043, 2045, somewhere around there, we expect to get to 32 million passengers. And so what we need to do is build the infrastructure just in time to meet that demand. And so the first phase you'll see in the DCO is about enhancing Terminal 1. And then the second phase starts somewhere in the early to mid 2030s, where we bring Terminal 2 online.
Wow, there you go. Thanks for sharing that. Very clear in terms of the pathway there, and this is not a 5-year or a 2-year job. This is something that's going to span a couple of decades from what you're describing, and it's a slow and steady process. And from what I can tell, a very well thought out process as well. Because I was actually part of the impact study that the government did, where people were allowed to write in, including from the community, and I was one of those people that took the time to write a couple of pages actually saying how much impact it would have on the town and surrounding areas. Somebody knows a lot more about the town than I do is, of course, Hazel Simmons, leader of Luton Borough Council. Hazel, let me ask you, the council clearly has prioritised airport expansion as a key component of Luton's economic growth. How do you envision the expansion contributing to the broader development goals of the town? Of course, we've got the stadium being built now, Power Ports, and the excitement there. Now we've got the expansion of Luton Airport. How do you feel how do you expect that to impact the broader development goals of the town?
Well, it's fantastic opportunity for our town. Really, really fantastic opportunity. And for me, it brings skills in employment and decent, well-paid jobs for the future for our young people. You know that underlying all that we do as a council at the moment is Luton 2040, which is about tackling poverty in our town and getting proper, decent jobs, sustainable for the long term, is obviously to the benefit of the town, absolutely. So, and to benefit of Luton 2040. Obviously, over the period of to the 32 million, there's 11,000 jobs that will be created, 4,800 of those in Luton, and obviously there'll be jobs that are created across the region and in the towns around us. So it's really, really positive news. It'll sustain the economy of the town and comes at a very brilliant time, particularly to the sad closure of Vauxhall.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm curious about that, Hazel, actually, because as we know, and rumor has it, a company has purchased the Vauxhall plant. Yes. We don't know who it is, but I know Luton Council did put an offer in and wanted to actually purchase that land. But another company has come in and purchased that land. Mm-hmm. Do we know who that is yet? Because I know Luton Council released a press release saying, "Hey, we're going to work with whoever it is, and we look forward to working with them, etc., etc." But who is that? Is it Tesla? Is it another big company?
Yes, it's a company called Goodman's, and they have put an announcement out. We did meet with them this week. They're very keen to work with us on what plans they've got for the site. Obviously, it's all very new, and it was just.
What did they do? Woodlands, did you say? Sorry to interrupt you. Was it
Goodman's? They're a global company apparently, and they are building somewhere at Toddington at the moment, and they've made contact with us initially. So yes, we're hoping that could look a positive site as well.
That's exciting.
About mixed development is what they're saying. Mixed development.
Interesting. Yeah, that could be lots of things, right? Mixed development, but at least we have someone who's acquired that land, and hopefully we'll put it to good use, and maybe create some more opportunities for local residents as well. Thanks for that, Hazel. Zorazar, let me bring you in on this, because Luton Airport expansion, and of course we're going to go on to the Bedfordshire theme park in a moment. Universal theme park in Bedfordshire. That's exciting as well. Lots of really positive news. You've been a Luton resident for decades.
50 years.
How have you seen the airport? Because when I think about the airport and I think about Luton as a town, I think, thank goodness we're not in Birmingham, because they're not even getting their bins picked up at the moment in Birmingham. But at least we're getting our bins picked up, and hopefully we're not going to get to the point where we have any strikes or anything like that. And they've got an airport. Don't
say it too loud, though.
No, but they've got an airport. I don't want to jinx it, of course. But they've got an airport as well, and they've got. I don't know if the structure is the same in terms of how they've structured their airport, but I think the way Luton Council has done it is very clever.
Well, what I do want to sort of point out really is I think it is good news for some. I think people who live directly underneath the flight path probably will have a different view, to be honest. And I think that those views have been expressed, and then there's concerns being taken on board. However, I have to say that the structure that's in place at the moment is actually ownership of the council is by, I guess, ultimately the Luton residents are beneficiaries, but I'd like to see a better balance between the operator of Luton Airport versus the owners of Luton Airport. I think last time we spoke about this when the proposal was being put together, the numbers, although they sounded quite reasonable, but they were over a period of 20 years, to be honest, right? And when we broke them down to individual years, they didn't amount to much. So I'd like to see perhaps a better return for the investment ultimately, I guess, which Luton's going to make for the Luton residents.
I think that's a fair comment. Let me go back to Nick on that. So, of course, if you're just tuning in right now, listeners, we are speaking about the Luton Airport expansion. We've got two wonderful guests on the program. We're talking to Nick Platt, Managing Director of Luton Rising, which is the organization, the company that does a lot of the overseeing of the airport's expansion. And Hazel Simmons is on the line as well, leader of Luton Borough Council. Nick, my second question to you is about the MP from Berkhamsted, which is one of the towns, adjacent to Luton Airport, and she's been very vocal in terms of what's been going on, and saying that this is a disaster for the residents of Berkhamsted and anyone under the flight path for Luton Airport and this proposed and confirmed expansion now. What do you say to residents that are listening tonight that are concerned about the increased noise levels that this expansion, albeit over 20 years, is going to create for them?
Well, I think it's important to remember that this process has been going on for a number of years. And as an airport owner, I'm obliged, but also want to, because of our ownership structure, to deliver a benefit to the community, not just in Luton, but the surrounding areas. And with very few assets and opportunities left in the borough and the surrounding area, the airport has become the biggest single site employer in the town. So it's very different structure to what you see in Birmingham. So their airport is owned in a different way and operated slightly differently. So that's an owner-occupier type situation. We, Luton Rising, own the airport. Our shareholder is the council, has been for a long time. And 25 years ago, we assigned or issued a concession agreement. Management of the airport has gone to a company called LOL. And through that arrangement, over the last 25 years, the airport has contributed £500 million into the local community that would have otherwise gone to private shareholders overseas or across the UK. And that £500 million is in two ways. The bulk of it is through the council. So the money we pay to our shareholder goes through to the revenue budget and is paid for frontline services and other activities that the council decides for the last 25 years. And then a very large proportion, about 120 million or so of that, has also gone to the voluntary community sector, not just in Luton, but the surrounding area. And that's a significant amount of money that we've paid into the community as a direct consequence of owning the airport. So ownership of the airport has been very positive for the town and the community. And the idea of expanding to 32 million passengers is to increase that contribution that we make. And there's a couple of ways we do that. One of which is for every additional passenger above where we are today, a pound will be paid into a community first fund. The trust, I don't have it. It's decided by the community on what that is spent. That will be in addition to the £8 million a year that we currently put into the voluntary community sector directly. So we're the most socially impactful airport in the UK. Nearly 50 pence per passenger goes into the community, either through the council or that voluntary community sector directly from us. And that's significantly higher than any other airport. I mean, it's 20 times probably more than any other airport in the UK. We also know within the town that 20 times more people support the expansion than oppose it. And so it has very strong support. And I want to thank your audience for contributing their voice and their signatures to the petition. We had over 10,000 community of the community supporting it. We had 130 odd businesses also supporting expansion. And that's really helped us, I think, get the argument across to the government. So to this issue that you talk about, and I think it's important to say that the examination has been long. All of those issues have been discussed and identified by the examining authority and have been talked through. We've responded to them. But at the end of the day, someone has to make a decision. And the Secretary of State has weighed up the balance And that's what this is. This is not a binary choice. It's that or that. It's a very difficult decision. And I think she's been very brave to make the decision she's taken to say, economic growth, jobs are really important.
Yeah, I think she'd be very naive. So, sorry to interrupt you, but I think the government would have been very naive not to have allowed this to go through, given the economic backdrop and all the challenges that we're seeing even this week with the tariffs and everything that's going against world economies, notwithstanding the UK as well. But Nick, let me ask you this other question very quickly before I go back to Councillor Hazel about the Universal theme park, which we've all heard the fantastic news about this week as well. Very exciting. Did Universal also consult the airport? Because we know obviously infrastructure is a massive part of any large setup like a theme park, especially to the scale of 500 acres and maybe then some, which is the option they have as well to expand that acreage as well over time. I know that there's a couple of train stations involved there in the area. But of course, one of the big things when you look at the proposal from Universal is, Luton Airport is literally up the road, half an hour up the road, and that was a big consideration for them as well. Did they reach out to you, and did you have conversations with them as this was happening?
Yes, we've been talking to them for quite some time now. I won't say exactly how long and how many times. You'll understand there's some commercial elements to that. But we've certainly understood from them the impact that we can expect, and we've kept them informed about our expansion plans and how we can support their growth. So that we do expect a large number of their guests to come through Luton Airport. And so we need to be ready in 2031 when they open to be able to process those additional passengers, because that's over and above what we do today. So we are talking 2 or 3 million passengers additional starting to come through the airport from 2031 onwards. And we now need to go into the detailed planning with them about how we connect the airport with the theme park.
And how does that, a quick question on that, Nick, how does that normally work? Obviously, without going into the commercial conversations you're having, which might be sensitive, but at some airports, for example, when you go to Euro Disney in Paris, there are shuttle buses, for example, that take you from the airport directly into Euro Disney. Are they the kind of conversations you've been having as well about kind of adding the branding to Universal branding into the airport? And will there be like a cost share as well? Is there normally like a cost share where the company would pay the airport some subsidies to manage all of this?
Yeah, so there's a number of parties to this conversation, not just least Universal as the theme park operator, ourselves as the airport owner, and we also operate the DART. So we have a number of conversations going on around capacity that's available. Obviously, the airport operator is part of that conversation. The train operating companies are also part of that, and the coach companies. So there's a number of organisations that are now having to look at the operating plans to support that volume of guests and how we connect them either from the airport itself or from the town. Or you talk about workers, how do we get them to the theme park? Because I do expect a large number of Lutonians to pick up work there. So it's how do we connect the town, the airport with the theme park? Rail is my preference because it takes that demand off the roads. So how do we make the rail connection work? How does the DART connect through? All of those elements need to come together, and we've got a few years to work those out. There is a solution, of course, and it'll be fine. It'll be seamless. And
but 5 years isn't a very long time in the grand scheme of things. If you think about 5-6 years, given all the red tape around this stuff. But thank you for sharing that. Let me quickly go to Councillor Hazel Simmons, who's been very patiently waiting. And let me ask you this, Councillor, specifically about Luton Station. Of course, when people are maybe landing or flying into London Heathrow or Gatwick, of course, as they will be, maybe people from London and the south will be taking the train. They're going to have to pass through Luton Station. And I know the council has been really proactive the last couple of weeks, petitioning the government, saying, listen, Luton Station looks like a mess. I mean, look at Luton Airport Parkway, a lovely station. You've got the DART connection, beautiful. But Luton Station itself is the council is arguing is a national disgrace. Just share us where you're coming from there.
Well, we've got a great big petition we're collecting, and we'll be out at the station to get the commuters in the mornings in the coming weeks. because it's so important that we get the message through to Network Rail mainly, but to anyone that will listen about the state of our station, and also Leagrave Station, which is inaccessible. If you're in a wheelchair, it's just a disgrace that we have 2 stations that are inaccessible in this day and age, and they really do need to focus on it. And I recognise the money's being spent at East West Rail and all the other rail projects, but this universal project that's been agreed now, and the need to get people from London through, and also from our airport through to Universal, it's become really important that they take seriously the issues being raised by Luton Town now. And I honestly would encourage all your residents to sign the petition. Please give us the support as you did with the airport to improve our railway station.
100%.
And if I may, I just also add to Hazel's comments that we at Luton Rising are ready to support and help redevelop the station. And in fact, we have some expertise on that. And the conversations have already started with our colleagues at the council about how Luton Rising can help bring a redevelopment of the station forward. And we've got some good connections. We've got some good opportunities and ideas. So we'll work with the council to make that happen.
Amazing. I'm sure Hazel's going to take you up on that straight after this call.
Absolutely.
That sounds exciting. And that is one of the perks of having an airport, right? For any town. That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that, both of you. And it's really exciting to hear that Goodman's is behind the Vauxhall purchase. And also, I think it's also very exciting that there's lots of development happening. I want to go ahead and thank both of you for joining us on tonight's edition of Friday Night Live and sharing all the latest and greatest exciting times ahead for Luton and surrounding areas and the country, I would say. Hopefully we can have you on in the future just to get some updates and see how it's going. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Listeners, this is Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zafar Iqbal Saab. And of course, we're going to go on now to some special guests as well, because joining us right now actually are guests that are from Bedford, the town of Bedford, on the back of this wonderful news about the announcement of the Universal theme park just next door to them. So let me go ahead and welcome our guests on the line. We've got Shiraz Butt, who's a local from Bedford. And I believe we've also got Derek there as well. And they've turned their camera off, Zafar Saab.
Oh, no.
How could they do that? Like, given that we're streaming.
Come on, guys. Show your beautiful faces.
Yeah, go on. All right. Are they going to turn it on?
Just bear with a second.
Oh, quickly combing the hair now. There we go. They're quickly sorting it out. There they are. They look great. There they are, mashallah. Gents, thank you for joining us. It's exciting to hear the news, but tell us, what is the vibe and the word on the street from the residents of Bedford? Are the residents of Bedford excited, elated, or concerned?
I think generally it's come as positive news. It's been in the pipeline for a while, so people kind of knew it was coming, but to get the formal confirmation obviously makes it real now. So inshallah, in a few years, there'll be evidence of it actually having happened. But in the next few years, the development, the construction that's going to take place will really hopefully bring a positive spin to what's happening in Bedford, and revive a town that maybe hasn't had the best of last few years, with a lot of other towns being developed, and Bedford itself has kind of had a slower progress. So inshallah, it'll be positive for the residents and the local area.
Yeah, and are you hearing any signs of discontent? Because all the media and press that I've seen, even from residents, at least on mainstream media, has been very positive, where people are excited about the fact that, there's 20,000 jobs to be projected as a result of this 50 billion injected into the economy, over the next 20 years. Is that the kind of thing that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So they talk about 28,000 jobs coming into the local area, 20,000 as part of the construction phase, and also another 8,000 that will remain after that as well. So that's all exciting news. And obviously to support that, there's going to be hopefully improvements to local infrastructure. That's one of the challenges we've had for many, many years. And in some ways, Bedford's kind of gone backwards, like many other kind of older towns, where there's a shift in retail from town centres to retail parks. And one of the challenges was the infrastructure locally, and that's been improving last few years. But this hopefully will bring further improvement. That'd be a good thing for Bedford.
Yeah, there's always going to be people who are afraid of the change that's happening, and that's understandable. But I think the overwhelming positiveness of the outcome will hopefully put their fears to rest. And there are some people obviously worried about the traffic, but obviously that then means then the local authority will be looking at getting roads expanded and the infrastructure in place. Therefore, you don't create bottlenecks, you don't create congestion. You create ways to actually to alleviate that, so people can come in and out. Because if there's a lot of infrastructure issues here, then the theme park itself may not be as successful as people would think. So therefore, the Universal Studios guys are going to have a vested interest in making sure that there are no bottlenecks around here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's.
I wonder if it's going to be called Universal Kempston or Universal Bedford. Probably. Or as I say, it might even be Universal Luton, maybe. Yeah, wider Luton. What do you reckon, guys?
They're not going to put the Luton brand next to it.
Yeah, we don't allow that.
I think it's going to be Universal UK. That's probably the best way of describing it. And you know what? The beauty is it's in the heart of England. Anyway, brothers, we've got to leave it there. But let me thank you for joining us and sharing the word on the street in Bedford. Sounds like everyone's excited and optimistic about the months and years ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum. Listeners, this is Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zafar Iqbal Saab. Of course, Zafar Saab, exciting show today. What amazing news. It was great to hear from Hazel Simmons about Goodman's. That was breaking news.
I'm assuming it's Goodman's, the electronics company that we know of.
I don't know. Is that right?
Could international company. If it's electronics company, right, then I think that kind of in many ways it's a positive, right? Electronics being manufactured in Luton.
Yeah.
If it's not, we'll probably have to sort of Google it afterwards.
So that was a hot thing, and also the fact that Luton Rising is speaking to the council to help out on the rebuild of Luton Station. That was news.
It's the same about that. Well, I know it's an arm's length company there, so they surely.
Yeah, I mean, but they don't have to. I mean, this is something that the government should contribute to, which sounds like they are. They're trying to.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Luton Station, right? It's just a lot of pigeon crap, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day.
And pigeon stuff, but also I would say bridges that need rebuilding. That footbridge. A coffee shop that could do with a bit of growth. Cleaner platform. There's so much that can be done. In terms of the ad that we're going to place out for England when tourists come in. But anyway, listeners, this has been Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zafar Iqbal Saab. And we're looking forward to speaking about this topic and others next week when you join us then. Take care of yourselves. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.